might have feared that he would be inaugurating female priest or promoting abortion or something like this, and he really didn't do those things. I think he effectively, what did he do with gay marriage? I think he sort of split the baby a little bit in the sense of not recognizing the marriages as the equivalent of marriage between man and a woman, but sort of finding in them some redeemable quality or something like that. I perhaps I'm mangling it. Jordan, you are Catholic, so go on. Um,
Well,
what is his legacy according to you?
so as far as the gay marriage thing, yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, splitting the baby. The analogy that people use is in the same way that you would try to pray for somebody who's in the throes of a heroin addiction.
Yeah,
Um, you're not endorsing the behavior itself, but you're still praying for the person to overcome their sin.
yeah,
So a lot of conservatard Catholic commentators were, and this kind of ties into his legacy. I think it's really overstated the extent to which that he was some woke libtard.
hmm,
That's really the take from a lot of Taylor Marshall types, Jack Posobiec types, Marjorie Taylor Greene types, like the regular crew. Is like, oh well, he's a woke globalist, globo homo pope, and it's like, first of all, the Catholic Church is not, and people probably have some disagreement about this, but it's not an inherently political institution. It comments on politics,
hmm.
and comments on them insofar as they involve morality, but it's not an inherently political institution. And people are treating it like the Pope needs to be like
Well, it
Tucker
once
Carlson.
was, to be fair.
Yeah, I would say today at least functionally
Yeah,
it's but people are acting like the Pope needs to be like a Fox News commentator and be
right.
denouncing Dylan Mulvaney when he speaks at ex cathedra or something. And I think people just fundamentally don't understand the function. Not, I mean, conservatard people. They
Right.
don't understand the function of the papacy, and they think that it's an avenue for their political aspirations. And they think that the church is basically an offshoot of the GOP, and it's not.
Right. I have to say, I was extremely shocked by Marjorie Taylor Greene's statements. Now, I made numerous jokes about JD Vance being so cringe that he killed the Pope and so on. So perhaps you could say I'm guilty. But at the same time, I actually was making fun of JD Vance. I was not reveling in anyone's death. I don't have terribly strong feelings about Pope Francis either way, but I certainly don't hate him. And he actually seems like an interesting guy, and I have maybe warm feelings. I mean, I don't know what to say, but this she tweeted out something of, God is reordering leadership at this moment or something. And she didn't mention him by name, but being that it occurred on that day, she's clearly indicating that God killed Francis in order to install a more conservative pope or something like this. And that is just insane on so many levels. First off, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm 99% certain that she's a Protestant, particularly coming from Georgia and so on. So, I mean, not that a Protestant can't have opinions on the Pope, but why would you care about these things? That this man has no authority over you. He is a pastor in Italy. That's the degree to which you have opinions on him. So, but it's not like she hates Catholics or the papacy. She just hates him as a person, and she thinks God killed him in order So we need a strong MAGA force in Rome. I did find that just in exceedingly bad taste and also bizarre
Yeah,
on
it's a
many
way for
levels.
her to signal, it's a way for people like that to signal to MAGA that they're not on board with the Globo-Homo Pope, which is what a lot of people call him.
Right.
I forgot if it was Pasobic or that account, Reagan O'Hanley, DC Drano, Normie Slop Conservatard account.
Yeah.
It was one of those two. They're basically indistinguishable, but one of those two said the Trump administration needs to leverage all of its power to get a conservative pope into the papacy. And it's like, talk about missing the point, man. It's like the yeah, that really sent me. It's like these people think that the papacy is like their role is to register GOP voters or something.
Yeah.
Like that's actually not the role of the Pope. It's not to act like Tucker Carlson in Rome. Um, so yeah, I mean they think that it's just an offshoot of like foreign policy basically. And I think Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments were trying to signal to that base that she's not with the woke libtards, you know.
Uh, there's no doubt. Yeah. That's what it was about. But just what a I just truly do hate her. I mean, she's just a heinous person. And everything she does is somehow annoying at best and and offensively stupid. Um, Incredible. But so I'll go to a play called Italy and then we'll go down.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't have any. I never really felt strongly either way about Pope Francis. I always felt like he almost kind of seems like Obama's Pope in a way, where it's like kind of that same time. I think he was became Pope in 2013, so I feel like there was always this kind of
Hmm.
overlap with like his papacy and then like Obama's presidency. So I think it is kind of interesting that it's ending now. And yeah, I mean, I think he was almost similar to Obama in ways. I think what Jordan said too is that, and I know people like this that I like grew up with Catholic. I'm no longer Catholic, but I know some people that still kind of subscribe to this. That yeah, he was like a communist pope, and he's Obama's pope, and he's a demon worshiper, etc. But yeah, I think he definitely got painted as like a radical leftist communist, much like Obama. But that yeah, in fact, if you kind of
But
dig a
when you
little
look
deeper,
back on
he's fairly
Obama,
mild.
Obama is like a Republican president, basically. If you judge him by his actions and not by the kind of animosity and anger and hysteria that he elicited amongst conservatives, I mean, he implemented Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. He did regime change in Libya. He continued the war on terror, and he I don't know, maybe raise taxes a bit or something, but it was sort of a wash. It looks like a Republican presidency when you look at it objectively. And I think probably the same thing could be said about Pope Francis.
Yeah, sorry, you mind if I jump in really
Yeah, no,
quick?
you can jump in. That's
Um,
fine.
I think something you said that was a good point was about the female priesthood. I was I remember as recently or as far back, I guess, as 2022 or 2023. I
Hmm.
was going back and forth with Taylor Marshall. Taylor Marshall is actually my old high school theology teacher. He originally taught theology in Dallas for a small
Really?
private school. Yeah, that's where he
Well,
started
I
off with
know of
Greene.
him pretty vaguely, but I've seen he has a big YouTube account
Yeah,
and so on. But he's
he's
Catholic as well, but then sort of
yeah,
connected to MAGA. And,
yeah. So he's like the resident MAGA Catholic. He's very heavily TLM, the traditional Latin Mass.
hmm.
He's of the opinion that like the Novus Ordo um, isn't a real mass. It's not. It's an illegitimate form of the mass. He's bordering on schism, to be honest with you. But um, I remember going back and forth with people like Taylor Marshall and Timothy Gordon and Pasobic types even a couple years ago, and they were saying you're going to be defending Francis when he institutes the female priesthood. Give it less
Hmm.
than a year. And I saved those tweets because I called bullshit on it. I was like, that's not going to happen. You are so in this MAGA world that you think that like that he's a demon worshiper. And sure enough, like you just said, there was no female priesthood. There was no we accept gay marriage. I'm not saying he was like a based, because some people do say that Francis was secretly based or something. I don't believe that, but he also wasn't this revolutionary who was, starting the female priesthood or something. And that clearly never happened. And those people need to eat crow, but they never get held accountable for their predictions.
Well, they're weird because I mean they're quite literally more Catholic than the Pope in their rhetoric, but they will use Catholicism when it suits them politically as well. It's a sort of double game. Like I mean if so according to Taylor, the services that are being performed are not real, so no one is in fact receiving the Eucharist.
Yeah, that's a common sentiment in the
I mean,
growing
yeah, I mean, you're
TLM
just
group.
totally undermining the church in a
Right.
much
And
more radical way than, say, me or something.
there's nothing the church has ever said that would lead you to believe that. Like they've never said, if anything, they've said the opposite after Vatican II. They instituted the Novus Ordo, and it is confirmed, or by at least by the church, that it is a illicit form of the mass. So
Yeah.
these people like Taylor Marshall are really they're yeah, you're right. They're behaving as if they're the Pope, and they don't sound too different from Protestants actually.
Hmm. It's interesting. Um, I'll do Chris and then Barnetta. Chris.
Yeah, sure. Speaking of double game, people like that or similar to that are all, seem to basically take the position that the Pope is always infallible, except when he disagrees with them, effectively. So
Yeah.
yes, more Catholic than the Pope. But yeah, what I was interested listening to what Jordan was talking about there in terms of people in MAGA or on the conservative side, in a way, kind of thinking of the president and the Pope as a kind of duo. It's like get a conservative Pope in there, really do some things there. And I thought maybe in a way they could be sort of hearkening back. This could be some people of an older generation, boomers, kind of hearkening back to the effective partnership between Reagan and John Paul II, which was instrumental in undermining communism in Eastern
Yeah.
Europe. So,
Because
so
he was a
yeah, in a way, it
Polish
could be.
pope who ascended during the Cold War. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was initially thought to be a détente pope. It certainly did work to undermine the communist fold in Eastern Europe. He was the first non-Italian pope in 4.5 centuries.
Mm.
But yeah, I think that's sort of looking at the sort of the president and the pope as a potential kind of right-wing tag team could be a bit of Reagan nostalgia as well.
To undermine wokeness. I mean,
I guess.
there's a Cold War. It's cold as ice.
The global
We've all
struggle.
been asleep and they want to wake us up. Yeah, sorry, that was like a line from Tenet or something. um, yeah. Barnetta.
Yeah, I just have a random question.
Uh-huh.
I want to know if you hate more this woman you're talking about.